Hey guys, now that we have our Stripe account set up and the environment variables for Stripe on both the front end and back end, it's time for us to continue working on this place order component. This place order component is going to, we're going to need to display a Stripe UI form. But in order for us to be able to get access to that Stripe UI form, we're going to have to make an API request to the back end. And the API request that we make is going to fall within the use effect, meaning that the moment that this component mounts, the use effect is going to execute, and we're going to call that API call to the backend. And once this API request is made to the backend, it's going to send along. We're going to send along with it the total value of all the items in the cart. So we're sending back that total value of all the items in cart to the backend, and within our controller, we're going to execute a Stripe API, which is called payment intent. The purpose of this payment intent is essentially it's a sort of payment confirmation. So we're telling Stripe to that this is the pending or the anticipated amount that the customer that we're anticipating to pay. So we're sending that total value, and Stripe is then going to return to us a client secret. And with that client secret, we're going to send back to the client side, which is then going to be used to display the Stripe UI form. Now, that client secret is very important because the Stripe UI library that we're making use of on the front end it's not going to display. It needs to receive that client secret. So that's why when we get that response, the response from the back end, the moment that the front end receives it, we're going to have a condition that checks that if the client secret exists, then we're going to display the Stripe UI on the front end, which is going to be a form, and the user will then be able to log in their credit card information and submit the form to send back to the backend, and we could finalize the payment then. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue or work towards this. So we're gonna start off by setting up the UI for the place order form. So currently, as you can see, as you saw a moment ago, is we had this message being displayed inside place order component. Now, what we're gonna do is we're going to reuse what's already created from the previous. Here, I can show you here. If we go to proceed payments, we can make use of this whole layout right here that's already existing, right? Because essentially we want these three processes to look identical, right? So here, this is the payment section, and if we go to the shipping section, you see that essentially the layout is identical, right? Except for those those little details that are specific for this specific step, okay? But we want to make use of this layout to look over here in the place order. So why not reuse it, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make use of the payment component and copy that over to place order and fine tune it. So I'm going to go here. So now we're in place order. All right. Let's go ahead and look for that payment component. I'm going to scroll down here to where it's returning our JSX. And I'm going to come here, click at the end of the section tag, and click at the I'm going to shift click at the beginning of the section tag on a Mac, and then command copy copy this piece of code, come over to the place order component, delete this, and then paste what we copied over. Okay, let's see here. Looks like I'm missing this here. There we go. All right. All right, but now let's go ahead and delete what we don't need here. I'm gonna delete this whole form section. So I am gonna come to the end of this form and go ahead and delete that. We're also going to remove this payment and change that for place order. Let's go ahead and save that. All right, so now we see we got an error here. Progress bar is not defined. So we're calling this here, but we didn't import it. So let's go ahead to the payment component and copy that over. Paste that right in there. Save. All right, so now we see a warning. This is UseEffect has a missing dependency payment method, and that's in our payment file. So that's right here. So right here for this UseEffect, it's complaining about this piece right here not being included here. So we can go ahead and paste that right in there. If we go ahead and save this, you'll see that that warning goes away. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at our layout. So here, now look at the, as I mentioned, is that the layout is, this is exactly what we wanted. It's looking identical to the previous two steps. Okay. All right, so the next step is, ideally we want the Stripe UI form to be present here. But again, as I mentioned, is we're going to have to execute an API call to the back end so it can call Stripe and return to the front end a client secret, which will then, based on the condition, if it finds the client secret here on the front end, it will be able to display that Stripe UI form here. Okay, but let's go back here, and as I mentioned, we want to execute the UseEffect, which takes in two arguments. All right, the first argument is the callback, and then the second one is the array for dependencies. All right, but now that UseEffect now doesn't require, this was the way they used to approach it, where the second argument had, if you didn't have any dependencies, you would still display an empty array, but you can actually omit this and leave that out, just like so. All right, let's see. So now we're calling UseEffect here, but we have to import it. So let's go ahead and do that. UseEffect. All right, and for this UseEffect, what we want to do is we want to call a method called getPaymentIntent. We currently don't have this method created, but we're going to do that right above. I'm going to call getPaymentIntent. And here, what we're going to want to do is we're going to have to calculate the total value or total cost of all the items in the shopping cart. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to just leave a comment, say calculate cart items. We'll leave that. We'll take care of that in a moment. Let's see. So we're going to calculate cart items. And then here, this is, let's see here. You know what? Actually, let's take care of that right now. So let's do const. I'm gonna call it calculate cart total, and no, actually, you know what? No, we're gonna call it cart total because we don't want to. We want to create a separate function for that specific functionality. So we're gonna call here calculate cart items, cart total, calculate cart total. All right, and outside of this method or this function, we're gonna call calculate cart total. And let's see here. So first thing we're gonna need to do is, let's see, we're gonna have to get cart from that's currently stored in local storage. So get cart from local storage, and then we're going to have to calculate, or yeah, we're going to have to do the calculate cart total here. All right, so first thing is getting the items from local storage. So we're going to say I'm going to say cart equals JSON parse, and we're going to use get, what was it here? JSON parse local storage get item, and let's go ahead and take a look here. Open your dev tools. If we look at the application tab here, we're going to see everything that's stored in local storage, and we see the cart. So the key name is called cart. So this is what we're trying to grab. So I just wanted to confirm that it's called cart. So get item to cart. All right. All right. So what we can do here, just kind of go step by step and make sure we're getting everything along the way. I'm gonna do a console log here. So I'm gonna save that, and we're gonna try to see that we grab the cart from the local storage, and we're gonna console log that. So let's go back here. I'm gonna go to my console. This is okay. I'm gonna refresh, and you can see here we have the cart item, which is a turkey burger. And let's go ahead and confirm that. I'm gonna go to cart, and you see there's turkey burger and there's exactly one quantity. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to go here to the shop, and I'm just gonna add another item. I'm going to add the lasagna. So now you say we have two items. Go to the cart, and yeah, so you know what, I'm gonna add 2 turkey burgers. So now we got 2 turkey burgers in this. Okay, as you can see, the total is $27.50, and we'll proceed to checkout. Continue. We're using Stripe, and now we're here. And if you look at the console, now we get a different log. So we get 2 items in this array, right? The lasagna and turkey burger. So you can see this turkey burger, and remember I incremented it to two items, so the count is 2, and the product price is 8. And if we look at the second item here, it's a lasagna. The count is 1, and the total price is $11.50. Okay. Okay. All right, so let's go back here, right over here. All right, so this test passes. I just wanted to confirm. So now we get our items from local storage stored here. Next step is we're going to, let's see here. We're going to call the reduce function a built-in JavaScript function which allows us to take a collection of values and reduce it to just one value. Now, this particular built-in function is good for this use case here, in which we're trying to calculate all the items in a shopping cart. Because what's gonna happen is, if I here, actually, let me start by setting this here. We're going to do so we're going to do cart.reduce. It's cart reduce, and this takes in two arguments. So the first argument is the callback function, and then the second argument is an initial value. We want to start off at 0 because when because this reduce function, what it does is it goes through an array of objects. And so take this case here. We have two objects in this array here. So the reduce, what it does is it starts by going through this array, and it'll go through this first object, which it'll start in this object here. And what we're going to do is we're going to calculate, we're going to multiply the count of products times the total price. And then we're going to then what happens is it's going to add that in a variable called the accumulator. So you can think of the accumulator as the current sum. So when we get to the next item in the array, that accumulator has the value from the previous item in the array. And then we'll be able to calculate the total cost from the next item in this array, which is this one here, and then add on to it the total from the previous object in the array, which was this one. So it continues this whole process until it reaches the end of the array, and by the end you'll have the accumulator will have the total value of all the items in the cart. Okay, so this one right here, this callback is going to start with we're going to have two arguments we're going to pass. So as I mentioned, this is the accumulator, and then the second one is the current value. Okay. And then within here, we're going to return the accumulator plus the current value dot count plus or times the current value dot product price. Okay. Now you might be wondering, where did I get the count and product price? Well, this is coming from these objects right here, because remember, each object has a count and a product price. So we're calculating the total items by the total price of it. All right. So here we're going to store that in a variable and call it cart total. Cart total. There we go. Save that. Current value is not defined. Current value is not defined. Oh, syntax. There we go. All right, let me go ahead, save that. Card total is assigned a value, but not card total. Okay, perfect. All right, so now what I would like to do is let's go ahead and test this out here. I'm gonna do a console log just to check that up to this point that everything's working. So I'm gonna do a cart total. I'm gonna console log that out. I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna refresh this page and look at this total. All right, so you see we get 27.5, which is $27.50. And if we come over here, you see 2 times 8 is 16, and then plus 1150 is 2750, right? So this matches right here. So that reducer function did exactly what we wanted to do, okay? It went through each item on this list and calculated the sum of everything. All right, but now, if as you're probably thinking, is why do we have this as a 0.5? Well, you might be thinking, well, why not have this? Why don't we just have this in 2 decimal places? So we can do that, and that's what I'm going to do here. Is we can do some formatting. Do cart total. I'm going to call a built-in JavaScript function called toFixed, and what this is going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to give back how many decimal places behind, or how many places behind the decimal place do we want to display. So we want 2 places after the decimal to display. So if I go ahead and do this cart total here, just like so. Let me do cart total equals, there we go. And then I'm gonna go console log this out. Console log, save that. Cart total is constant. Oh, no, actually, you know what? Let's turn this into a let. There we go. That was, save that. And then come back here. Let's go proceed to check out. And then now you can see we have 27.50. All right, so now we're doing it 2 decimal places, 2 digits after the decimal. Okay. All right, but there's still one problem though, because unfortunately Stripe does not allow us to send back to it when we're giving back the total to Stripe. It does not allow us to send back the value in decimal form here. Instead, it wants us to break down the monetary value in its smallest form. So that means that we have to send it back in cents. Okay. In order for us to do that, is we're gonna have to tweak this slightly by multiplying that by 100. And if we save that, come back here, now you can see that it's 27.50. So this is exactly what Stripe is going to be happy with and wants us to send back the total value in cents. All right, so now that we have this, next thing is we're gonna want to return this. So let's go return this. Return cart total. All right, so calculate cart total is done. So this right here is being executed, and I'll return the cart total and stored in this variable here. All right, so now that we have the cart total, we can move down here, and I am going to remove that and remove these here. All right, going back to the get payment intent function. So now that we have the cart total, next thing is we're going to prepare our Axios API call to the back end. So we're gonna call Axios. We're gonna have to import Axios. So we're gonna do import. Actually, let me do import Axios from Axios. And then now we can go ahead and call this here and say, oh yeah, and by the way, this action is going to be asynchronous because we're making an API call to the back end. Therefore, we don't know exactly how long it will take. So we're going to have to call async await. So we're going to do async here and then do await Axios. There's going to be a post request to, we're going to call this this endpoint API payment, and then payment. Let's do payment intent. All right, so API payment intent. Okay, and then for the second argument is we're going to pass in the total value that we got from the shopping cart. So we're going to store it in a property called total and pass in the total we get from here. All right, if we save that, all right, there we go. All right, so that should be it for now. So now we have everything we need right now. Yep, yeah. So now we got everything we need. So we have everything set up for making our API call to the back end, so we can call the payment intent API and have Stripe send back to the client side the client secret, which will then be used so we can display the front end Stripe UI form to the user. Okay, I will see you in the next video.